All right, welcome everybody to this episode of O365A, continuing with our series on Microsoft Teams devices. Today we're joined by Michael Tressler, who is a Senior Solutions Consultant with Jabra, and we're going to do a roundtable to discuss what's new and exciting with Microsoft Teams devices and any other new developments with Jabra. So welcome, Michael, and why don't you give our viewers a little intro to yourself and Jabra.
Hi, so I am Michael Tressler. I'm a Microsoft MVP. Have been one for a year, so we'll see if renewals are coming out when tomorrow. So we'll see if I make the list tomorrow. Let's see if I did enough in the last year to be a year 2 MVP. Worked at Microsoft for 6 years. The last 3 years of my time at Microsoft, I helped develop, was a lead developer on Teams Rooms training. So at the time, partners were like, "Hey, we're interested in deploying and installing Teams Rooms for our customers, but there's no documentation or training on it." So myself and a few other people wrote the Teams Rooms Windows training and did boot camps, and then that moved on then to Android devices, Teams Rooms Android, and then the phones and panels and rest in peace displays. So I did the training on that stuff, then moved over to Jabra as they had the PanaCast 50 camera out, but then they were about to release their first Android bar, the PanaCast 50 VBS. So it's kind of exciting to join a startup, even though we claim to be a 150-year-old company. Not claim, I mean we are, but 150-year-old company. But when you're launching a new product and essentially a new division, video, there's very much a startup mentality. So a lot of energy and a lot of mistakes because it's a startup thing. But we're about to release our PanaCast 40 in a month, and all the lessons learned, as well as some things that are new to the industry, are coming to that device. So super excited. I'm totally stoked for this PanaCast 40. I could just talk about the box for 15 minutes, the box it comes in on, but maybe we'll get to that later. So otherwise, I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, so I see half of Canada half the year. Half of Canada comes to Florida in the winter months, and then you guys disappear in the summer. And that's when that's when I'm like, hey, can I travel up north? Like there's a potential trip to Buffalo next week. I'm like, please, can I get to Buffalo? It's not quite Canada, but it's almost. Like, can I get north for a few weeks? So I totally get it.
Yeah, I think the volumes of Canadians going down to Florida dropped dramatically this year, but we won't get into that.
Well, only 10%. Well, once you come once you come across the border, it's 10% discount time.
Yeah.
for you, but not us. Yeah.
So, Michael, why don't you kick us off with, I've used Jabra devices, Microsoft Teams certified devices before. I haven't sort of looked at the lineup lately. Anything new and exciting that our viewers should know about?
I mean, the obvious one I already hinted is the PanaCast 40 is coming out. That's our small huddle room solution. Much like so if you're not familiar with our PanaCast line, our claim to fame is the 180-degree field of view. So we take 3 cameras and take all 3 video feeds, stitch them into one big panorama video feed. And so you can see everything in the room without needing additional cameras or having to arrange a room in a given space, because the original, whatever camera you have, 120 degrees is kind of the industry standard for a lens. So you're missing 60 degrees or maybe a third of the room you can't see, but that's generally okay until people start walking around or people start putting chairs in different areas. And then I always say the reason you put cameras in a conference room is so the people at home can see everything going on in the conference room, so they can feel part of it. And if you can only see 2/3 or 75% of the room, you're not really giving them the full experience. So that's where Jabra's video claim to fame is, that 180-degree field of view. So the PanaCast 50 was the first real Teams Rooms Windows device that Jabra released about 3 years ago now. Full soundbar, speakers, microphones, all of that. And then, so that's Teams Rooms Windows. We partner with Lenovo. We partner with Crestron. Lenovo even takes our 50, PanaCast 50, and rebrands it as their own, the Lenovo ThinkSmart Bar 180, which is a really good partnership because if you're into ThinkSmart Manager, you can completely manage our camera through ThinkSmart Manager using our APIs and SDKs and things I don't fully understand, but the engineers at Lenovo do. So good partnership with Lenovo, and then Crestron also rebrands our camera. So it's had pretty good adoption in the industry. And then as you guys or your listeners, watchers know, Android is really picked up steam in the last year and a half, 2 years. as kind of the preferred in many cases device. So we came out with our PanaCast 50 VBS, same basic camera, speakers, and microphone as the regular PanaCast 50, but with Qualcomm chipset, Android, HDMI connectors, all the stuff needed for Teams rooms on Android. And then I'll pause here in a second, but the PanaCast 50 was always designed for a medium-sized room. So you guys are Canadian, so you're somewhere between feet and meters. So let's go between 15 feet and 20 feet and 4.5 meters and 6 meters, whichever one you prefer. So it's designed for that. The problem then is a device that has all that technology in it gets a little expensive when you're putting it in a 4 meter by 4 meter space or 10 foot by 10 foot. I know 4 meters isn't 10 feet, but give me a break. So like a smaller space, it gets expensive. So that's where the PanaCast 40 comes out then for huddle rooms.
Fantastic. I don't think any conversation about devices would be complete unless we talk about the hybrid scenario. What are you seeing in terms of Jabra supporting the work from anywhere scenarios?
That gets into a couple of things. One, that's where the PanaCast 40 comes in really handy is as people are returning to the return to office move seems to be, yes, you have to return to office, but not every day. So 2 or 3 days a week you have to be there, but we'll meet you. The industry are like, we'll meet you about halfway. You can work from home a day or two, but you've got to come in. I mean, you have to clock in 2 or 3 days a week, which generally means that there are still up to 40%. If it's 3 days you come in, 2 days you don't. That 40% fewer people, so the conference rooms don't need to be as large. So part of that is as people are building new space or giving up real estate post-COVID, which somebody said there's BC and AC before COVID and after COVID. So in the AC world, there's smaller conference rooms. So that ties into our PanaCast 40 doing that. And then that gets into our whole headset world. We released, do I have it down here? About 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. I'm not on the headset side, but this Evolve 265 Flex. And the cool thing about this is when it's got the auto noise canceling and the boom arm and all the things you would expect, the Jabra quality. But what it does is it folds in half. So now it takes less space in a backpack, a purse, whatever you use to carry back and forth from the office. So yeah, the thing folds in half. So that was definitely a hybrid design. There you go. Glad to see everybody has one. So a lot of those things, and then there's things I probably can't talk about because I don't know, but there's more things being worked on for kind of the meeting that. So everything from in the office, releasing a Android bar designed for smaller conference rooms to some innovations like the foldable headsets to just take up less space while still providing, that team certified audio experience.
So, Michael, I'm just going to talk about, I know you quickly touched about sort of managing these devices. So obviously, with the latest move by Microsoft by moving to AOSP, how have you seen that transition happen? Because obviously, I think it was last week or something like that, there was obviously the conditional access policy that came into play as well too.
Joyful times.
So it's like a little bit of everything that kind of happened all at once. So yeah, what are your thoughts on
that device code flow thing? That device code flow thing, I almost said a bad word. It really upset me because I was completely aware of it. I trained on it at CommsV Next 2 weeks ago. Some people in that room had never heard of it before, so I'm like, here it is. According to Microsoft, they're not going to turn it on if you've been using device code flow. And then fast forward 10 days later, it turns on in our demo. So we have like 140, like the Jabra video team, we've got like 140 Android devices in a demo tenant. I'm one of the global admins of it. And like at 5 p.m. Eastern time, reports started coming in. Hey, Mike, what'd you change? My devices are signing out. I'm like, it's 5. I haven't done anything. Like, I promise I haven't done anything. I worked on a different tenant, but I didn't even do anything on that. I was testing to see if the speaker and facial recognition global policy, if I had my PowerShell right for a blog article in a totally different tenant. That's all I'd done. And then the next morning, wake up, see on the MTDAMA Discord, people are asking about it, and then quickly became device code flow, so I was able to fix it. But that was like one of those, because we had planned internally for when we were going to have our global solutions engineer meeting. I'm going to go through, enter ID, create the dynamic group, show everyone how it's done. Instead, I created a video real fast as I did it real time, posted it, and like, here's the changes I made so you guys know. So that's always the fun when you have something as complex as Entra ID and Intune and all of that. On the AOSP side, a really long answer. On the AOSP side, man, that's a big one. So at Jabra, we were the first people to release on Microsoft's device ecosystem platform, which is Microsoft's variant of Android, a Microsoft maintained version of Android. And that's a whole different discussion for a different day, what all that entails. However, we were about the first company then to ship on AOSP because MDEP only supported AOSP. So when we released our last firmware in February, we had to alert all of our customers like, hey, don't take this until you follow all this Microsoft guidance, because as soon as you do, you're going to be blown off. And as best I heard, again, I'm not in support. I don't answer the 800 number, but as best I heard, we had little to no phone calls on it. We got the word out. And then it was also, like anything, being a new firmware, install it on 3 devices, then install it on your other 50, a month later. So learn your lessons on the first 2 or 3. So that wasn't that bad. But today I was on the Microsoft Teams Pro Management Portal weekly phone call, and AOSP came up. Somebody was like, hey, do I have to do this Intune change? I'm not in Intune. Do I have to tell them? And Matt Slomka was like, absolutely, please do. Otherwise, your devices will sign out and stay signed out. So people are still, Microsoft, as well as us, fellow MVPs and everyone else, Jabra, Neat, everyone have been screaming from the mountaintops about doing this, and there are people who are still just now hearing it. So AOSP, it's ultimately a good thing because, Google deprecated Device Administrator, I think in 2012 or 2009, somewhere around there. Android, I just did the presentation that comes to me next, and I forget, like Android 8, and they just released Android 16. So it's a good thing. It's just finally had to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, don't all ask at once.
Yeah.
I'm trying to debate on how much we want to pull the thread on MDAP.
You can pull the thread. I have a hard stop, so I've got 11 minutes. I can talk MDEP for a solid 5 minutes and something else to wrap up.
I think the big kind of story is as you mentioned, Android is starting to get some good traction over the last year and a half. What is the value add of a Microsoft version of Android, and maybe why you jumped on that wagon versus you kind of managing your own version of Android?
Yeah, so to be clear, I don't work for Microsoft, so these will be my and I'm not in Jabra engineering, so these are my own opinions. All right, so just to be clear, so if I say things that maybe not align with a message one way or another, this is just my call. So MDEP. So if you step back, look at Teams Rooms Windows. The Teams Rooms app comes from Microsoft. The operating system comes from Microsoft. If a Windows update, and it never happens, but if a Windows update breaks Teams Rooms, you go to Microsoft, and then they tell you to uninstall a KB article or something. And in that way, they know every single API available on Windows, because everybody's running Windows 11 now. There's a few Windows 10s left, but by October, unsupported. So Microsoft develops to one operating system. In the Android world, there's Collab OS, Poly OS, Jabra OS, Neat OS, whatever, Link, Max Hub, D10. I'm forgetting one or two. Shore's just announced one. I think someone else, Barco, is coming out with one. Everybody's running their own version of Android. Let's just assume it's 9 months ago. Everybody's running their own version of Android. How do you make sure that every version of Android has all the APIs and requirements necessary? And they're not all running Windows 10 or 11. They're running everything from Android 9 to Android 13. So how do you make a stable, reliable app that covers all that? Now, a lot of apps do that. Candy Crush works great on most every phone out there. So it can happen, but Candy Crush isn't doing real-time audio and video. Candy Crush isn't doing those things. So you start getting into more complex things. So that's kind of the challenge Microsoft had, is the ultimate fragmentation, that every single vendor had a different version of Android. There are obvious commonalities, but everybody can add and remove what they'd like. And so that's the problem, then be on different versions. So where MDEP comes in is it tries to maybe get us closer to that Teams Rooms on Windows, where Microsoft says, okay, if everybody runs the same flavor of Android, we don't have those complexities, barring maybe different versions of Android. But they have that today with Windows 10 and Windows 11 until Windows 10 fully gets deprecated and out of support. So it's more manageable when when you've controlled all the APIs and everything that goes into the base operating system. So that's what Microsoft gets out of it. Theoretically, they can then bring features out faster because they don't have to test against 15 different things. They can test against one operating system. But also then so at Jabra, when we first announced MDEP, it was we were at Infocom last year, and there were customers who said, they saw the keynote speech address or whatever, they heard the news, and they're like, we were never interested in Android until we heard Microsoft was involved. Because no offense to our developers who created, as best I know, we never had we've now pulled our OS. It's out of development now because we're on MDEP. We never had a security issue. So we followed all the proper guidance. We did all the penetration tests. We were good. So we did everything right. But just kind of humorously, do you trust the operating system from an organization that's been doing it for 45 years and has their operating system in the Department of Defense and banks, or a headset manufacturer? Kind of like I would put my chips on the company that does operating systems as their core business, not the company that does headsets and video cameras as their core business. So for us, it immediately gave us some credibility to our devices that, look, we're now using Microsoft. And then Microsoft, and this is getting into where I don't really know the details super well, but the hardware attestation they can do, which apparently other Android vendors cannot. They've announced, and I don't know if this is coming to Jabra's version of MDEP, but in the next release, Microsoft is going to add Defender for endpoint. So it'll be the first one of these Android devices, Teams Android devices, that has an anti-malware, antivirus, which is, if you know how it works, pointless. But to security departments, it's a mandatory tick box. So, and then it gets to Jabra. We can get out of the compiling and supporting an operating system game and focus on drivers, focus on innovation, like the 180 degrees, like the box. I got to get to the box. The 180 degree field of view, the box, all of the things that we can add beyond having 2 or 3 people compile an operating system and support it if something goes wacky.
On that note, you kind of read my mind, Michael. I was going to ask about this buzz about the Panicast 40 and the box. Like, everybody's talking about this box, and I guess I'm interested to hear your take on it and what the deal is, and why, like, was it born out of customer feedback, or what's the story behind the box and the setup?
I said on the pre-call I wasn't going to do any PowerPoint, but we're going to do PowerPoint because I want to pause. Let me share my screen with audio. Share. I got so geeked about this, I made my own hype video. Go back. Here we go. With epic music, because you have to have that. Oh, did I share it with audio?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me show you the box. We'll just do a live demo and get out of the intelligent zoom and back out of the PowerPoint world. So
that was an impressive intro.
This is a box. Everybody's seen a box. Here's what happens. Let's say you guys, your company you work for, you get an order for 50 of these to set up for so you're an integrator. The customer orders 50 of these, and they want them to be on the latest firmware, the language set correctly, the time zone, etc. Put it into Teams mode, put it into Zoom mode, whatever, then ship it to the offices that get it. The way you do that is you open the box, take everything out, put it on a bench, do all the work, put it back in the box, tape it up, and ship it off to the final thing. Rinse and repeat 50 times. Why are we taking things out of boxes? Can't we just flip it around, have a piece of tape here, take it off, and have access to the ports? So the power, HDMI, and Ethernet, just plug it right in. And then for the controller, the PoE. So now you can do all the provisioning without having to take it out of the box. You've never had to take time cutting this open. Knives are dangerous, people. Don't play with knives. You don't need to play with utility knives. You don't have to retape it. You aren't going to lose any cables that come falling out. You're going to patch it, put it back in. You don't have to worry about putting it back in the way the manufacturer designed to ship it. You're not going to accidentally. It happens. It happens. You take a lunch break while you're working on it. You spill your Mountain Dew or your coffee on one of them. Like, damn it, now did I break it? It falls off the table. It happens. This falls off the table, no problem. Have you seen how the mail system handles packages? It's designed to be dropped and thrown in this package. And then when you get done, you slide it closed, and then we provide another piece of tape. So when it's open, there's another tape right here. You take it out, you close it, you seal it back up for shipping, and then it says system provisioned. So now if you leave for a day or the weekend and somebody moves your boxes around, you're like, oh crap, which ones are provisioned or not? You can just look at the sticker, say system provisioned. But wait, you're thinking there can't be more. But wait, there's more. After you provision the box, how do you know this box is different than any other box? Historically, you take a marker, you just mark like room 7, room 8, or number 18 on the spreadsheet or whatever. What if we've just provided the documentation on the box for what room is it going into? How are we mounting the device above or below? Is this Ethernet or Wi-Fi? How are we mounting the control panel on the wall at an angle? Is this Teams or Zoom? Any provisioning codes, etc. So now the installer, say I just dropped the box. The installer on the receiving end doesn't have to find the Word document, the Excel spreadsheet, the whatever. They can just look at the box. And if you don't want to use it, that's fine. You don't have to write it on the box, but it's all there. So, Habib, thanks for the applause. It got to, with the PanaCast 40, the design wasn't what happens, what's the taking it out of the box experience. The decision making started at what happens the second the customer gets it for the first time. How do they need to provision it? Do they open it? So they interviewed a lot of AV integrators, like 40, 68, I don't know, I forget the exact number, but hours and hours. And somebody at some point said, I wish we wouldn't have to take it out of the box. And then somebody on the Jabra side took it seriously and said, why do they have to take it out of the box? And then it went on to there, and then even to, let's add the documentation on the box as well. So the PanaCast 40 is it. So you just take that, and there's all kinds of little Easter eggs and things, including, and I'll leave it for later because I got to go. There's a scene, there's an Easter egg scene inside the hardware, easy to see if you're an installer, of the Danish countryside with trees and birds and a river. So it's all there. Not a distraction for any end user, but for those of us who actually work on the devices, we can see that.
Perfect.
Well, that's fantastic, Michael. Congratulations on thinking outside the box. Literally.
Well, we actually thought inside the box.
Yeah, that's true.
But
all
yeah,
right, with that, I know you have to go, Michael. Thanks so much for your time. Great
just real
talking.
quick, the P40 comes out in August, so look for it there. And I will just plug two things. One, in a few weeks, look for Jabra. We're going to be doing a week P40 takeover, so a week of all the fun and entertaining things you want to learn about the PanaCast 40. And then visit my blog at flinchbot.com. Everything you ever wanted to know about intelligent speaker, multi-stream, and teleframe, and a handful of other things. So
Fantastic. Thanks, Michael. We'll see you later.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.